Hey everyone, welcome back to the Side Hustle Weekend podcast. My name is Unkit, and I'm the founder of Thrillverse Media and author of over 20 best-selling fiction novels. I started the Side Hustle Weekend podcast after noticing something very powerful. People with multiple income streams weren't just surviving tough times, they were thriving through them. So in the Side Hustle Weekend podcast, the focus is on side hustle, AI, passive income, solopreneurship, and making money online. But first, meet your AI hosts for today, Sarah Mitchell and Alex Parker. In each episode, they dive into exciting new opportunities in the world of side hustles, AI, productivity, solopreneurship, and passive income. So grab your coffee, take some notes, and let's talk about making money smarter, not harder. Also, before we start, hit that like button, share, and subscribe to join our Weekend Hustlers community. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our episodes where we break down more side hustle strategies. Over to you, Sarah and Alex, and I'll catch up with you at the end of the podcast.
All right, so we've got a pretty hefty stack of reading this time.
Yeah.
We're going deep on HDFC and HDFC Bank.
Okay.
And especially all the stuff surrounding this recent merger.
Right.
You know, I got to say, the more I read about Deepak Parekh, this guy who was at the helm of HDFC for decades,
Yeah.
the more fascinated I get.
Interesting.
Like, he's not just some successful CEO. He seems to have really redefined what leadership looks like in India's financial world.
Okay.
So what we're hoping is that by the end of this deep dive, you'll understand how HDFC became this financial powerhouse.
Okay.
But also, like, what made Deepak Parekh's approach so unique.
Yeah.
And what this merger actually means for India's economy.
Right.
So are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely. It's a story that goes way beyond like balance sheets and interest rates.
Yeah.
We're talking about a company and a leader that really reshaped how Indians think about homeownership and personal finance.
Okay, so let's rewind all the way back to the beginning. HDFC wasn't actually Deepak Parekh's creation, was it?
No, it wasn't.
His uncle H.T. Parekh, he's the one who got the ball rolling.
Right.
What was the scene like back then?
So picture India in 1977.
Okay.
Housing finance as a concept was almost non-existent.
Really?
People saved for years, sometimes decades, to buy a house.
Wow.
H.T. Parekh, fresh off his stint as chairman of ICICI,
Okay.
he saw a massive opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to help people get into homes earlier in their careers.
Oh, wow. So instead of waiting until like your 50s to buy your first house.
Right, exactly.
But how did he convince people this was even a good idea?
It was a tough sell, for sure.
I bet. And getting funding for a brand new idea like that
Yeah.
must have been a nightmare.
Oh, he really had to fight for every rupee.
Wow.
But he was very strategic from the get-go.
Okay.
He knew that to attract investors, he needed to project this rock-solid credibility.
Mm-hmm.
So he brings in S.S. Thakur,
Okay.
a former official from the Reserve Bank of India,
Interesting.
as HDFC's founder chairman.
So that instantly signals to the market
Right.
that HDFC is serious about playing by the rules
Right.
and upholding the highest standards of governance.
Yeah, it was a brilliant move.
You can really see how that would reassure those early investors.
Oh, absolutely.
And probably set the tone for HDFC's future culture, too.
For sure.
So this is where Deepak Parekh enters the picture, right?
Yes, 1978, Deepak Parekh joins HDFC.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He had a successful career in investment banking,
Mm-hmm.
both in New York and Mumbai.
Wow.
And to join HDFC, he took a 50% pay cut.
Seriously.
Yeah, he slashed his salary in half.
What do you think that tells us about him? About the potential he saw in HDFC, even in those early days?
I think it shows incredible commitment. I
Yeah.
mean, giving up that much money isn't something you do lightly.
Definitely not.
It makes you wonder, was he always passionate about housing finance?
Yeah.
Or was it more about the challenge of building something new in India?
That's a really good question, actually.
Yeah, the articles don't really dive into his motivations.
Yeah, they don't.
It's interesting, right?
It is.
Because it speaks to a side of Deepak Parekh that we don't often hear about.
Yeah.
He was very private about his personal life, but his actions speak volumes.
Right.
This wasn't just a job for him. It was a leap of faith in his uncle's vision
Wow.
and a belief in the potential of the Indian economy.
And there's another detail that really highlights his cautious approach.
Ooh, what's that?
Initially, he was hesitant to lend the HDFC name to the bank they were planning.
He would.
Why would he be against that?
Well,
Wouldn't that be like a natural extension of their services?
you'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But he was worried about the potential reputational damage if the bank failed.
Oh, I see.
Remember, HDFC, the housing finance company, was already well established and respected. He didn't want to risk tarnishing that hard-earned reputation.
So it shows you the long-term thinking he brought to the table. Protecting the core business while still exploring new opportunities.
Right.
So how did HDFC Bank eventually come about?
Well, the need for a banking arm became undeniable.
Okay.
As HDFC grew, they saw the limitations of only offering housing finance.
Yeah. People need other financial services too.
Exactly. Right. So in 1994, HDFC Bank was born.
And Deepak Parekh, despite his initial hesitation, played a key role in shaping its destiny.
He did.
This is where the story of Aditya Puri comes in, right?
That's right.
The legendary banker who led HDFC Bank to those incredible heights.
Yeah.
How did Deepak Parekh convince him to leave Citibank Malaysia and take on this massive challenge?
It was a bold move for sure.
It was.
From what I understand, Parekh really believed in giving talent the space to flourish.
Okay.
He promised Puri complete operational autonomy.
Wow. So basically he said, build this bank the way you see fit.
Pretty much.
That kind of trust is rare.
It is.
Especially in the financial world.
Especially in finance, yeah.
So Puri had a blank canvas and the freedom to paint his vision.
Right.
But what was his strategy?
Well,
did he jump right into retail banking or was there a different approach?
he was really smart about it. Instead of trying to compete head-on with those big public sector banks.
There are thousands of branches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Puri targeted a specific niche,
Okay.
blue chip companies.
Interesting.
He knew that lending to companies like Siemens, Birla, Ambani, Tata,
Big names.
big names,
Yeah.
would minimize risk and quickly build a reputation for reliability.
Smart move.
Yeah.
Establish that foundation of stability and trust before expanding into potentially riskier areas.
Exactly.
Was this approach typical of Indian banking at the time?
Not really.
Or was Puri breaking new ground?
It was definitely a departure from the norm.
Right.
Most banks were focused on either serving the masses
Okay.
or catering to the ultra-wealthy.
So Puri saw the potential of a middle path,
He did.
focusing on corporate lending to build that strong base.
Right.
And then strategically expanding into retail banking.
Yeah.
Once the bank had established that reputation for financial prudence.
It was a clever strategy.
And this methodical, almost cautious approach seems to have paid off big time.
Oh, it did.
The articles mentioned HDFC Bank consistently achieving a 30% net profit growth
I know, it's incredible.
every quarter for a decade.
It's insane.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Their focus on risk management and those consistently low default rates
Yeah,
became legendary in the industry.
they did.
By 2017, they earned that distinction of being too big to fail,
Wow.
according to the Reserve Bank of India,
That's huge.
joining an elite club that included giants like SBI and ICICI Bank.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive club to be a part of.
It is. But let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and focus on Deepak Parekh himself.
Sure.
The articles keep mentioning his frugality
Right.
and his surprisingly small stake in the company he helped build.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
How does that fit into his leadership style?
Well, this is where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
And I think it might resonate with you given your interest in what makes sustainable businesses tick, despite being instrumental in HDFC's success.
Yeah.
Parekh owned less than 1% of the company.
Really?
He believed in building institutions, not amassing personal wealth.
Wow.
He was more interested in the long game, the legacy,
Yeah.
than in short-term profits.
That's so rare these days.
It is.
It almost feels like he was running a giant startup on a salary.
Right.
Not for a massive exit payout,
Yeah.
but it obviously resonated with people.
It did.
What else did employees and investors say about his leadership?
There's this story that really highlights his approach.
Okay.
And it almost seems unbelievable in today's world.
What is it?
He didn't own a cell phone.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, no cell phone.
How did he function in the modern business world without a mobile phone?
I know, right?
That's unheard of.
He believed that constantly being reachable actually hindered deep thinking and focused execution.
Interesting.
He preferred face-to-face interactions, handwritten notes,
Oh, okay.
and dedicated time for reflection.
So it was a deliberate choice to prioritize quality over quantity,
Exactly.
depth over speed.
It was a different way of thinking,
It was.
but it clearly worked for him.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the present day.
Right.
The merger of HDFC and HDFC Bank created this financial behemoth.
It did.
What were the driving forces behind this decision?
Well, there were a lot of factors at play.
And what does it mean for India's financial landscape?
This merger creates a financial powerhouse unlike anything India has ever seen.
Okay.
And it also marks the end of an era.
Yeah.
With Deepak Parekh stepping down after decades at the helm.
So let's unpack those implications in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've established this HDFC merger is huge.
Yeah, it's massive.
We're talking about a combined entity with assets worth trillions of rupees.
Trillions, yeah.
But what does that actually mean for the average Indian citizen? You mentioned it unlocks a lot of potential, but how does that translate into real-world impact?
That's the key question, isn't it?
It is.
It's easy to get lost in the numbers.
Yeah.
But this merger has the potential to really touch the lives of millions of Indians.
Yeah.
One of the most immediate and significant impacts, I think, is likely to be increased access to a wider range of financial products and services.
So if I'm like a farmer in a remote village,
right,
or a small business owner in a developing town,
yeah,
this merger could actually make a difference in my life.
Exactly.
It's not just a big city phenomenon.
It's not just for the big cities. No.
So HDFC Bank has been pretty vocal about its goal of expanding its reach in these underserved areas. And the merger gives them the resources and the infrastructure to do so much more effectively.
It does.
And remember, HDFC already has a deep understanding of the housing finance needs of people in these communities.
Yeah, they've been doing this for a long time.
And HDFC Bank brings its expertise in retail banking, technology, and digital platforms. So imagine combining those strengths.
It's a powerful combination.
I see what you mean about synergy.
Yeah.
It's like they're filling in each other's gaps.
Exactly.
But access to what specifically? What kind of products or services could make a real difference to someone who's been excluded from the formal financial system?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
Easier access to loans for things like buying equipment, expanding a business, or even investing in education.
Okay.
Microinsurance products that protect against crop failure or health emergencies.
Interesting.
And even investment opportunities that were previously out of reach.
So these are all tools that can empower individuals and families to build a more secure future.
Exactly. It's about giving people the tools they need to take control of their financial lives.
That's a powerful image.
It is.
It's not just about making money. It's about enabling people to build better lives for themselves and their families.
Right.
But wouldn't this sudden influx of credit also pose some risks?
It could.
I mean, we've seen what can happen when people are burdened with excessive debt.
Oh, absolutely. Responsible lending practices are critical.
Yeah.
And that's where HDFC's traditionally cautious approach to risk management will be so important.
Right.
They can't just throw money at problems. They need to make sure that loans are given to people who can actually afford to repay them.
Okay.
And that borrowers understand the terms and conditions.
That makes sense.
It's a balancing act for sure.
So it's about empowering people, not burdening them.
Right.
But from a purely economic standpoint, wouldn't this increased access to credit also stimulate growth?
Oh, absolutely. It has the potential to inject much-needed capital into local economies.
How so?
Well, imagine a small business owner finally getting the loan they need to expand their operations. Hire more workers, increase production. That creates a ripple effect, boosting the entire community.
Interesting.
And as individual incomes rise, so does consumer spending.
Right.
Further fueling economic growth. It's a virtuous cycle.
So it sounds like, on the whole, this merger could be a very positive force for India's economic development.
It could be, yeah.
Especially in terms of financial inclusion and access to credit.
I agree.
But haven't there also been concerns about potential downsides?
There have been some analysts worry about reduced competition in the banking sector.
Because of...
Given the sheer size and market dominance of the merged entity.
Right. If one player becomes too powerful,
exactly,
they could potentially dictate terms, set higher interest rates, or stifle innovation.
All valid concerns.
Too much concentration of power in any industry can be a bad thing for consumers.
It can.
Are there safeguards in place to prevent that from happening?
Well, the Reserve Bank of India, the RBI, they're very aware of this issue. They have a variety of tools to ensure fair competition.
Like what?
They can regulate lending practices, interest rates, and even market share limits to prevent any one player from becoming too dominant.
So it sounds like a delicate balancing act.
It is.
Encouraging the potential benefits of this merger, while also safeguarding against potential risks.
You've got it.
And this brings us back to the leadership lessons we can draw from HDFC's journey.
Okay.
Particularly from Deepak Parekh's approach.
Right.
He seemed to embody a different kind of leadership, right?
He did. And it's a style that's increasingly relevant in today's complex world.
Okay.
Deepak Parekh's leadership was characterized by his long-term vision, his frugality, and his emphasis on building institutions over accumulating personal wealth.
Yeah.
It offers a compelling alternative to the short-sighted, profit-driven mentality that we often see.
It's almost like he was playing a different game altogether.
He was.
Not just focused on the next quarter's earnings,
Right.
but on creating something that would stand the test of time.
He was building for the future.
Do you think that's a model that's replicable, or was he just a unique individual?
That's a great question.
It is.
I think there are valuable lessons to be learned from his approach. Regardless of your industry or the size of your organization, he understood that building trust, fostering a strong organizational culture, and prioritizing sustainable growth were essential ingredients for lasting success.
Those are principles that apply whether you're running a multinational corporation or a small community bank.
Exactly.
His belief in empowering his team, giving them autonomy and ownership, also seems like a key takeaway.
It is.
It's not about micromanaging or dictating every decision.
Right.
It's about assembling the right people and trusting them to execute the vision.
Like he did with Aditya Puri
Exactly.
at HDFC Bank.
And let's not forget his unwavering commitment to ethical conduct and regulatory compliance.
Absolutely.
In a sector that's often tempted to cut corners or push boundaries.
Yeah.
HDFC stood out as a beacon of integrity.
They did.
This reputation for trustworthiness was a significant factor in their success.
It was.
And it's something that customers, investors, and employees all value. It's clear that Deepak Parekh's legacy extends far beyond the financial metrics.
It does.
He's left behind a blueprint for values-driven leadership.
A blueprint.
That transcends industries and geographies.
Yeah, he really did.
But before we move on to the broader implications of this merger,
Okay.
I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Sure.
HDFC's focus on financial literacy and inclusion.
Right.
Why was this such a priority for them?
This gets to the heart of what HDFC was all about.
Okay.
They understood that a truly healthy and vibrant economy requires participation from all segments of society.
Not just the wealthy or the well-connected.
Exactly. It's about empowering individuals to make informed financial decisions, understand their rights as consumers, and access the tools they need to achieve their financial goals.
So it's not just about providing financial services.
Right.
It's about giving people the knowledge and skills to use those services effectively.
It's like teaching someone to fish instead of just giving them a fish. And that's where their focus on financial literacy comes in. They invested in educational programs, awareness campaigns, and community outreach initiatives.
It wasn't just about marketing their products.
Yeah.
It was about building a more financially literate society.
Right.
Which, in the long run, benefits everyone.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
It makes me wonder if their approach to financial literacy could serve as a model for other businesses.
It could.
Even those outside the financial sector.
I think so.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It raises a really interesting question.
What's that?
How can businesses balance the pursuit of profit with a genuine commitment to social responsibility and the well-being of their communities?
That is the question, isn't it?
And I think that's something we can explore further in the final part of our deep dive.
Let's do it.
You left us hanging with a pretty big question at the end there.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. How can businesses balance the pursuit of profit with a genuine commitment to social responsibility?
It's a tough one.
It feels like a tricky equation to get right.
Yeah, it is. But, I think HDFC's story shows us it's not an either situation.
Okay.
Their commitment to financial inclusion, it wasn't just about being altruistic. It was actually a really smart business.
How so?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
Reaching those underserved populations.
Right.
Educating them.
Yeah.
Creating products that fit their needs.
It sounds expensive.
It can be.
So where's the profit in that?
By tapping into a market that was largely ignored.
Okay.
HDFC basically unlocked this huge new customer base.
So they were expanding the pie.
Exactly.
Not just trying to get a bigger slice of the existing one.
Right.
That's smart.
It's not just corporate social responsibility.
Yeah.
It's about weaving that social impact into the core of your business model.
And that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
It's not just about avoiding bad loans.
Right.
It's about creating a more stable and sustainable financial ecosystem.
Exactly. And that ties back to Deepak Parekh's leadership.
Yeah, his long-term vision, his emphasis on building institutions that last.
He saw the bigger picture.
He did.
He understood that true success isn't just about individual wealth.
Okay.
It's about building something that contributes to a better future for everyone.
And that's a powerful message for anyone, really.
It is.
Regardless of their career path.
For sure.
His willingness to forego personal riches.
Yeah.
To build a strong and sustainable institution is pretty inspiring.
It's amazing.
It feels like a lost art these days.
It does.
And his decision to give Aditya Puri complete autonomy to run HDFC Bank really shows his trust in people.
It does.
He wasn't a micromanager.
No.
He believed in empowering others to lead.
And that's a valuable lesson.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this sense of awe at the scale of what HDFC achieved.
Yeah.
They truly transformed India's financial landscape.
They did.
But I'm also struck by Deepak Parekh's legacy. You know, he embodied a different kind of leadership. One that prioritizes values, long-term thinking, and building institutions that make a difference.
Beautifully said.
And maybe that's the most important takeaway from our exploration today.
Perhaps it is.
True leadership goes beyond just profit margins and stock prices.
It does.
It's about building something bigger than yourself, something that contributes to a better world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into HDFC and Deepak Parekh.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and maybe even a little inspiration from this remarkable story.
It's a great story.
So that was today's episode of my Side Hustle Weekend podcast. For everyone listening, if you're ready to take action on what you learned today, here's where you can find more resources. First, head over to sidehustleweekend.com. I've put together detailed guides, templates, and case studies. And while you are there, don't miss out on my free newsletter, Side Hustle Weekend. If you found value in today's discussion, hit that like button and subscribe to join our Weekend Hustlers community. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our episodes where we break down more side hustle strategies. Check the description below for all the tools and resources we mentioned today. Remember, everyone's journey starts with a single step. Whether you're looking to make an extra $500 a month or build something bigger, start with what you learned today and take action. I'll see you in the next episode where we'll break down another practical way to grow your income. Keep hustling smarter, not harder.